Jesus is the way, the truth, and the... Oh, hold on.
Well, good evening or morning. So you can tell for me, if you look at the windows, it's evening. If you're watching this in the daytime, then good morning. All that good stuff. Anyway, listen, this is one of those ones where I was just kind of hanging out with God, and it was almost like He told me to press record. And so that's what I'm doing. Um, something that the Lord's teaching me a lot about is obedience, trusting Him, and through trusting Him, I gain faith, which allows me to trust Him more. So, the whole if I do the little things now, it'll lead to greater things down the road, but, I need to get my feet wet, all that good stuff. So this little rant is almost I'm going to be preaching to myself. And if there's any value that anybody else gets from this, that's fantastic. That's awesome. That's what I pray for. Yes, Lord. Yay. But selfishly, this is almost preaching to myself. So when I watch this again, I'll be like, oh, yeah, that's right. I said that to me. Anyway, let me stop being weird and let me get on with this. So, the Lord's teaching me obedience. He's teaching me trust. He's teaching me faith. The other thing that, He's really been teaching me over the last several years is my identity and who I am in Christ. And I think that I always understood it logically. Well, not always. I've become aware of my identity and I understand it logically. Like, we're created in the image of Christ. So when He created Adam and Eve, He created them in the image of God, which is love, joy, peace, holiness, all that good stuff, right? When Adam and Eve sinned, they took on sin, they took on the flesh, they took on what they weren't created to be at that point, right? You with me so far? So created in the image of God, and then the fall happened, and now they're out of the image or what they were created to be. So then when Jesus died on the cross, he died on the cross to bring us back to who we were created to be, back to holiness, righteousness, peace, joy, love, all those good things, right? So you're with me so far. Hopefully you are. I think I'm there too. So we're keeping it real, so to speak. So understanding logically that, I'm created in the image of God, which means that, 2 Corinthians 5:17, old things pass away, old thoughts, no, old actions, old instincts, old ways of being, like the flesh. Those things died when I became a new creation, when I became what I was supposed to be in Christ. And so I get that. And so, the things that I wanted to do, I don't want to do anymore. Or I'm getting to that point because there's still, come on, let's face it, there was, 15, 20 years of my life that I was living how I wanted to, and every once in a while those things still kind of come back, and it's like, oh, that would be fun, and then I'm like, no, that isn't who I am anymore. Anyway, let me stop rambling, because again, I have no order on this video. This was just totally like, boom, let's press record and let's go for it. So I don't have any Bible verses for you other than I'm going to reference something. And so when Jesus in John chapter something, verse something, okay, you with me so far? Jesus says, like, I've got the power of God, like, boom. And then he puts on the servant's apron and then starts washing everybody's feet. And like, so a lot of people and how I've always interpreted that is like, man, that's like Jesus showing us how it's done. If you're the, if you're going to be great, you've got to be able to be a servant. And that's what being Jesus and putting on that image is all about. You're being a servant because that's what Jesus did. He loved us so much that he'd die on the cross for us, like the ultimate sacrifice and all that stuff. And so, the idea is that, he's the servant and as Christians, we're here to serve other brothers and sisters. We're here to serve the unbelieving world. We're to be the light in the world. But I kind of, in talking to God like the last couple days about this, it was almost like, what if, how do I word this? It's easier when I'm talking to God and not the camera. Okay, so Lord help me. Okay, so what Jesus is doing right there is it's the ultimate sign of confidence in who he is and what he was doing. I think for me, as much as I understand the identity theory, it's not really a theory, but you know what I'm saying. As much as I understand that I'm created in the image of God and everything, I think I've still been holding on to my earthly identity, whether that be my job, whether that be, my looks or my charm or whatever. I've been holding on to those things, and I've been finding my identity through that. Now, there's still the whole, I've got a good base in Christ and everything like that, but there's still certain things that I've been holding on to as my identity. And when we're younger, whether you're picking up chicks and that's how you find your identity, or it's the money that you make, or whatever the case may be, that's how your identity is. And whether you're being promiscuous or whatever, a lot of people say, well, that's because you don't have high self-esteem, or you're finding your esteem through partners or whatever the case may be. And that's ultimately true. I think that without Christ and without understanding your identity, your self-esteem is low because you're trying to find your esteem in yourself, in your flesh. And when you can finally understand that, we just need to step out of that, get away from our flesh, and find our esteem in him. Because let me rewind and go back to what Jesus was showing by washing the feet of his disciples. Like, you have to understand that back in Jewish custom, the person that washed people's feet was like the lowest, like the crappiest, most degrading job that you could do back in the day. You know that, right? And so by Jesus doing that, it wasn't... the Bible's so awesome because it's so many layers. There's always layers. And so there is the superficial layer that's true, that like Jesus was showing that to serve him is to serve others. But I think the next layer that I'm kind of realizing is it's also about identity. And Jesus didn't care about washing the feet because he knew his identity was in the Father. The most powerful person, I hate to say person, but like the ultimate power in the universe was inside of him and supporting him and everything. And so his identity was in him, so you could say whatever you wanted about him, Jesus. You could say that he was a blasphemer, he was a jerk, he was a wine bibber. What do they call, so some people accused him of being a drunk. That, all those things, they hit him, they spit him, all those things. And the ultimate power of Jesus was that he knew where his identity was. He knew his identity was the Father, was God. And so, walking in and being the perfect person, which he was, it's because he understood his identity, truly, truly understood his identity. His identity wasn't even being the Christ. It wasn't having 12 disciples and having all of these other people like worshiping him and everything like that. It wasn't about being able to forgive sins. It wasn't about healing. It wasn't about any of that. His identity was in the Father, was in God. And if we can understand where our true identity is, then we aren't going to be focused on the other things. And changing is going to be easier. And understanding, who cares what happens at our job? Who cares what happens in our relationships? I don't mean who cares like we're just flippant about it. But it gives us a different perspective, so if our girlfriend or wife or husband or boyfriend gives us crap or whatever, we understand where our identity is, and we're not gonna let that bother us. We're gonna be able to love them, and we're not gonna take it personally because we know where our identity is. If our job starts to stink and we lose our job, or our car breaks down, or whatever miscellaneous thing that happens in life, we aren't gonna let that bother us, because again, we know where our true identity is. It's the Father. And so I say all that not because I'm worried about cars breaking down and the trials of life that happen. And see my other video if you want to understand where that really comes from. And leave comments and slap that like button. I'm just kidding. Slap the like button if you want. Subscribe if you want. I don't care. Anyway, I always tell that to my son. He's starting a YouTube channel, and he's always like, slap the like button and stuff. And I'm like, if people like your videos, then they'll just do it. So anyway, so it's bigger than the daily trials. It's how we perceive life. It's how, I think I started this video talking about God's teaching me to be obedient and trust in Him. And to me, that's fully grasping my identity in the Father. And once I can fully and truly understand that, then whatever anybody's reaction to me is, it doesn't matter, because my identity's in the Father. Like God. Awesome. All right. So I think that's all I needed to say right now. Hold on. I think we're good. All right. I think we're good for right now. Hopefully that made sense to at least one person out there. I have a feeling it's going to make sense to at least me. And not that it's all about me, but I don't know. Anyway, I'm so sorry for the rambling. If it helped you, that's awesome. If you have questions, let me know. I'll probably do a more organized follow-up video with Bible verses and things to support whatever. But I think I'm going to dig more into this thought. It's more than just washing feet, man. It's understanding where you're coming from. All right. Love you guys. Talk to you later.